She was the witch who made the world believe in magic, but her real life was anything but enchanting. Behind Elizabeth Montgomery's perfect smile hid betrayal, silence, and secrets Hollywood buried for decades. What you're about to hear will change how you remember her forever. Elizabeth Montgomery. The world knew her as Samantha, the charming witch who could twitch her nose and make magic happen. Her golden hair and gentle smile became symbols of purity and joy in every home that watched Bewitched. But behind those bright lights and laughter lived a woman who carried wounds no one could see. The cameras captured her beauty, but never her pain. What the world adored was only half of her story. The other half was buried beneath years of silence, manipulation, and heartbreak. These private photos and untold stories reveal the side of Elizabeth Montgomery that Hollywood tried to hide. Born into fame, Elizabeth was never given a choice. Her father, Robert Montgomery, was already a legend, strict, cold, and obsessed with control. To him, Elizabeth wasn't a daughter. She was a project. At just 7 years old, she was pushed into acting, drilled to memorize lines, and forced to wear a smile she didn't feel. Every compliment came with a cost. Every mistake felt like betrayal. Fame wasn't her dream, it was her duty. Her childhood was a stage, her emotions a performance. And in that endless rehearsal of perfection, her real self began to fade. When Bewitched premiered, Elizabeth became America's sweetheart overnight. The perfect wife, the magical mother, the woman everyone wanted to be. But that charm was just a disguise. Off-screen, she lived a very different story. Behind the glow of television, her nights were long, filled with anxiety and pills that promised sleep but delivered emptiness. She was trapped between applause and isolation. Hollywood saw a star. She saw a cage. And the people she trusted most often became the ones who hurt her the worst. At 19, she entered a world that was more predator than dream. In the golden halls of Hollywood, power was currency and innocence was cheap. A cold father, a lover who sold her image, a director who took her silence for consent. She was young, fragile, and surrounded by men who saw her not as a person, but as property. When she tried to speak, the industry turned its back. Papers stayed quiet. Contracts disappeared. Her pain was swept under red carpets, and her smile kept the money flowing. For decades, she lived with the ghosts of what happened behind closed doors, too afraid to tell, too famous to escape. But even through that torment, Elizabeth didn't crumble. She played her part with grace, hiding her heartbreak behind the twitch of a nose and the sparkle of a joke. To the audience, she was untouchable. To herself, she was breaking. Every role she played was another layer of armor. Every scene another chance to pretend that she was fine. Yet behind every laugh track was a truth darker than any script could write. A truth that would only surface decades later when she had nothing left to lose. Elizabeth's story of pain was written in the faces of the men who claimed to love her. The first was Gig Young, the charming actor the world adored and the man who nearly destroyed her. He was twice her age when they met, handsome and magnetic, a Hollywood icon with a smile that could melt any heart. At first, he showered her with affection. He made her feel special, chosen. But soon, his love became a leash. Gig's charm turned to obsession, and his confidence to control. He dictated who she spoke to, where she went, even what she wore. He wanted her to shine, but only under his shadow. When she tried to pull away, he threatened to end his life. One night, after a drunken rage and a smashed mirror, she ran barefoot, terrified, and done. Years later, he would kill his wife and himself, leaving behind a note that said, "No one belongs to me." For Elizabeth, those words were a grim echo of the truth she already knew. Then came William Asher, the man who gave her fame and took her freedom. To the world, he was a visionary director, the mastermind behind Bewitched. To Elizabeth, he became another prison. Their romance started like a dream, two artists in love, creating magic together. But love under the spotlight fades fast. William wanted control, not partnership. He dictated every expression, every costume, every smile that America would fall in love with. Behind the scenes, his charm was replaced with betrayal. Affairs, lies, humiliation, even during her pregnancies. Elizabeth's home became another set. Her emotions, another script. She once said, "If I had real magic, I'd make him disappear." The day she signed the divorce papers, she didn't just end a marriage, she buried the last piece of belief she had in love. Hollywood wasn't finished with her yet. Power doesn't always show its face. It hides behind phone calls and closed-door meetings. Fred Silverman was one of those invisible giants, the executive who pulled the strings from above. He invited Elizabeth to a private meeting to discuss new scripts. She refused. Days later, projects were canceled. Weeks later, the press whispered about her mental health. One by one, her opportunities vanished. No one had to say it aloud. Everyone knew what had happened. One powerful man had decided she was done. His silence was her sentence. It was the kind of revenge that left no bruises, just absence. The invisible kind that erases your name, not your body. And still she stood. She worked. She smiled when the cameras rolled. But behind every photo was exhaustion. Behind every headline was loss. Elizabeth Montgomery's life became a delicate balance between survival and collapse. Every man she trusted turned her story into his own stage. Every triumph was paid for with a piece of her soul. Yet, through all the ruin, she never stopped fighting to be seen not as a witch, not as a star, but as a woman who had endured everything and still kept her grace. Aaron Spelling was next, the man who didn't bruise her body, but broke her spirit piece by piece. He wasn't violent. He didn't yell. His weapon was control. Spelling was the quiet architect of television empires, the kind of man who didn't need to threaten anyone. He just made phone calls. At first, Elizabeth believed he was an ally. He admired her work, spoke softly about her potential, and promised her creative freedom beyond Bewitched. But promises in Hollywood are fragile things. When she asked for more serious roles, something raw, something human, Spelling shut her down. He didn't want an independent Elizabeth. He wanted a compliant star who could smile on cue. Projects disappeared. Directors stopped calling. Rumors spread. Every no, she said, cost her another opportunity. The industry called her difficult. Spelling called it business. But Elizabeth knew better. This was punishment for daring to want more. The man who could have lifted her higher instead clipped her wings. He didn't shout, didn't strike, didn't argue. He simply erased her from the stories she helped build. The fifth and final wound came from someone she trusted completely, Henry Hurlbut. He wasn't a lover or boss. He was a friend, her media manager, the man who shaped her public image and defended her against the tabloids. Elizabeth once said, "He's the only one who knows the truth about me." And he did too much of it. When she began planning her own television project, one that would finally let her tell stories on her terms, Henry betrayed her, leaked lies to the press, planted fake photos of her in fabricated scandals. He sold her privacy for power. In a single week, the press turned on her. Contracts vanished, and her name became gossip. She locked herself away, ashamed, heartbroken, and done with trust. "I can forgive the man who left me," she wrote, "but not the one who turned my smile into a weapon." By her late 50s, Elizabeth's body had begun to fail her, but her voice found strength she had hidden for decades. In a secret interview, she named the men who haunted her, the lovers, the manipulators, the powerful ghosts of her past. 5 names that once ruled her world. The revelation shook the silence of Hollywood's golden era, but the walls quickly closed again. The tapes were buried, the truth smothered. Yet her words remained, whispered in diaries, remembered by friends, immortalized by those who refused to let her story vanish. She spent her final years in quiet defiance, away from cameras, away from scripts, away from the men who once claimed to love her. Her face had changed, but her eyes still carried that sharp sadness, the same eyes that once smiled through pain. Elizabeth Montgomery was no longer Samantha the witch, nor the Hollywood darling the world adored. She was something far rarer, a survivor who carried both the beauty and the brutality of fame inside her. Her untold stories are not about revenge or tragedy, but about endurance. They remind us that even the brightest stars can be dimmed by silence, yet never truly erased. In the years that followed, Elizabeth Montgomery's legacy became something more than the sparkle of Bewitched. Her fans remembered the laughter, the twitch of her nose, and the light she brought to their homes, but few understood the weight behind that smile. Each photograph that remains, the candid shots, the studio stills, the rare moments of rest tells a different story. Look closely and you'll see it. A woman trying to hold herself together beneath layers of expectation. Every elegant pose hides exhaustion. Every joyful grin masks a quiet ache. These were not just pictures. They were pieces of her truth, frozen in time, speaking the words she was never allowed to say out loud. Elizabeth's private photos, the ones the world must see, are more than nostalgia. They're proof of survival. They capture the contrast of glamour and grief. In one frame, she glows beneath the soft light of success. In another, her eyes reveal loneliness that no camera could disguise. She lived her entire life in public, yet remained invisible in the ways that mattered most. Hollywood built her, branded her, and then broke her. But even after all of it, she still showed up, still performed, still gave everything she had to the craft that once caged her. By the time the curtain finally closed on her life, Elizabeth had made peace with her past, and the only way she could by facing it. She no longer hid from the shadows of her pain. She spoke of betrayal, not with bitterness, but with a kind of weary wisdom. They took so much, she said in her final interview, but they never took my will. That will is what kept her from disappearing. That will is what made her story worth telling. Her suffering wasn't a weakness, it was the proof of her strength. Her death in 1995 ended a life filled with both wonder and wounds, but it didn't end her story. The truth she whispered in her last years began to surface: the secret tapes, the letters, the diary entries. They painted a portrait of a woman far more complex than any role she ever played. Not just Samantha, the witch who could fix problems with magic, but Elizabeth, the woman who had to fight every day to survive without any. Today, those untold stories serve as a mirror for anyone who's ever had to smile through pain. They remind us that behind every flawless image is a human being with cracks that don't always show. Elizabeth Montgomery's life was not just about fame, beauty, or tragedy. It was about endurance. It was about a woman who lived through betrayal, power, silence, and still managed to leave behind light. Her legacy isn't the witch who twitched her nose and made miracles. It's the woman who faced her demons without spells or applause and dared to tell her truth before the world was ready to hear it. She wasn't just a star, she was a survivor who turned pain into power. Long after the lights faded, Elizabeth Montgomery's truth still burns brighter than Hollywood's illusion.